All right, we'll call the council meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Katora?
Here.
Mr. Kraus?
Here.
Mr. McGill?
Here.
Mrs. Meany? Here. Mr. Russo?
Here.
Mr. Scott?
Here.
Okay, we do have one change to the agenda. Mr. Kraus?
Yeah, I would make a motion, we add under 7A ordinance that was passed I believe last Wednesday from Finance Committee, or the ordinance authorizing a settlement agreement, mutual release by and between the City of Solon and Karen Prosser, and declaring emergency.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Scott? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Katora?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus?
Yes.
Mr. McGill?
Yes.
Mrs. Meany?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Okay, the announcements are as published, and a special note, City Hall will be closed on Thanksgiving Day and the Friday after Thanksgiving. Are there any comments from the audience? Any comments from the audience? Any comments from the audience? Seeing there are none, now we'll bring it back to the dais for the approval of the minutes of November 6, 2017.
Move to approve as submitted.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, Mr. McGill, roll call, please.
Mr. Katora?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus?
Yes.
Mr. McGill?
Yes.
Mrs. Meany?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Abstain.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Okay, brings us to Planning Commission consent. Item number 1.
An application was received from L&Y Properties, Solon LLC, for Mitchell's Ice Cream for property located at 6130 Cruzy Drive. The Planning Commission approved a 7-space on-site parking variance, maximum number of wall signs variance to permit 2 additional. They also approved a site plan for additional patio seating and exterior building alterations, and they recommended approval contingent upon the payment of a sanitary cap-in fee increase, review and approval of the final site plan drawings by the engineering department, along with the $200 review fee, and all applicable permit fees as outlined in the November 6, 2017 engineering department memo prior to construction.
Thank you. Item number 2.
An application was received from King Nut for a property located at 6401 Davis Industrial Parkway for a 40-foot building setback from residential zoned use variance. The Planning Commission approved loading facility setback from residential zoned use variance contingent upon the door being used solely for construction and on rare occasions thereafter. They also approved a 29-space parking variance, a 6-foot aisle width variance, a 3-foot parking lot side yard setback variance, a landscape buffer variance, and the Planning Commission approved this upon the Planning Department's approval of the landscaping plan for additional plantings. They also approved a site plan for building addition, and they recommended approval contingent upon the applicant's compliance with the requirements outlined in the November 6, 2017 Engineering Department memo regarding stormwater management and tap-in fees.
Thank you. Item number 3.
An application was received from Olinger and Jennifer Pinnell for property located at 7527 Som Center Road for an accessory structure location variance, which was approved. An 8-foot accessory structure side yard setback variance was approved, and an 8-foot accessory structure cumulative side yard setback variance was also approved.
Thank you. Item number 4.
An application was received from Luke and Sarah Bobie for a property located at 5333 Som Center Road for an 18.75-foot front yard setback variance, not parallel to the street variance. The Planning Commission approved contingent upon approval of all easements by the engineering and law departments, and that the easements be signed and recorded prior to the issuance of permits and receipt of documentation that the property owner accepts responsibility for the pump station.
Thank you. Mr. Kraus?
I would move to approve the Planning Commission consent items 1 through 4.
Thank you. Is there a second? Okay, Mr. McGill, roll call, please.
Mr. Katora?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus?
Yes.
Mr. McGill?
Yes.
Mrs. Meany?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Okay, brings us to pending. Item number 5.
Ordinance number 2017-183, and ordinance amending section 1288.043D of the zoning code entitled Non-Commercial Opinion Signs. This is the third reading.
Mr. Kraus?
Yeah, I would, or do we have to
We
set
need
this
to
for?
schedule public
Schedule.
hearing.
Okay,
Public hearing.
I will set this for a public hearing for 2 weeks from this evening at the next council meeting.
Is there a second? Mrs. Meany? Roll call, please.
Mr. Katora?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus?
Yes.
Mr. McGill?
Yes.
Mrs. Meany?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Okay, brings us to new, item 5A.
Ordinance number 2017-190, and ordinance adopting the annual appropriations for personal services and other expenditures of the City of Solon for the period January 1st, 2017 to December 31st, 2017, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Scott?
Yes, this is just a recap of what's happened in the last few months to bring our budget up to snuff. And we'll obviously do it again until the end of the year. So I'll move for passage under suspension.
Is there a second? Mrs. Meany? Roll call under suspension?
Mr. Katora?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus?
Yes.
Mr. McGill?
Yes.
Mrs. Meany?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Final passage?
Mr. Katora?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus?
Yes.
Mr. McGill?
Yes.
Mrs. Meany?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Thank you. Item 5B.
Ordinance number 2017-191, and ordinance adopting the annual appropriations for personal services and other expenditures of the City of Solon for the period January 1st, 2018 to December 31st, 2018, and declaring an emergency.
Okay, and this will stay on first reading, so item 5C.
Ordinance number 2017-192, and ordinance adopting the annual appropriations for capital expenditures of the City of Solon for the period January 1st, 2018 to December 31st, 2018, and declaring an emergency.
Okay, and this also will stay on first reading. Item number 6.
Ordinance number 2017-193, and ordinance submitting to the electors the question of rezoning permanent parcels 952-19005, 952-19006, 952-19007, 952-19008, 952-19009, and 952-19013, comprising approximately 5.38 acres located to the east of the intersection of Cruzy Drive and Bainbridge Road from the current C1 Historic Commercial District and C2 Restricted Commercial District to the R3A Senior Citizen Residential 1 Zoning District. And the Planning Commission held a public hearing on October 24th, and a public hearing is scheduled this evening.
Okay, we will open the public hearing. Are there any comments from the audience? Any comments? Any comments? Seeing there none, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the dais. Mr. Kraus?
Yeah, do you want to hear from the applicant, if they could just come on up and just give a presentation?
Give a
us
pitch.
a good opportunity to learn a little bit about this wonderful project.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Gary Bialis. I'm with Omni Property Companies. My address is 32870 Werner Green Drive, Solon, Ohio. Also with me is Larry Apple, also with Omni Properties. So I just want to go over brief history of this project and what we're trying to do so it's clear. I think I distributed packages probably to all the members of council. As this property shows is where highlighted in blue is where we're planning on rezoning the property. Actually, it's 5.3 acres, and this map probably shows it better in color where this is the property. The yellow is a restricted commercial. The other property is the C1 historical. So we have a little property we're zoning in the restricted commercial. To give you a better feel for the whole property overall, in this area right here is our proposed project. La Chaperon is next to us, and across the street is Uptown Solon. Other items here is the bowling alley over here, and Panera and Mitchell's Ice Creams in this location. So when we first started looking for a project for senior living, we met with the city, and they kind of guided us to this parcel for certain reasons. It was, we feel, a walkable parcel. When you look at the city of Solon's master plan, it calls for certain things to be in this area. And actually one of them, and I took quotes from your code, it says, housing opportunities, promote housing opportunities to meet the unique preferences and needs of all age groups as to enable residents to reside within Solon throughout the various stages of life. And what our facility really is it's three types of care. One is independent living, one is assisted living, and the other one is memory care. So that is for the more elderly population. Next is the master plan says, obviously these numbers indicate the senior population is increasing, which can contribute to many factors, including healthier lifestyles, advance in Medicare, and Solon's commitment to providing high-quality senior services. I think when you see what we're building here, you'll see that it's a high-quality facility. The other talked about the central retail district. It says potential alternative redevelopment strategies for the core shopping center include upscale residential development, as long as the redevelopment would not be contrary to city school systems. In this case, our property is, we'll restrict it to 55 and older. Typically, the people that will move into our independent living will be in their 70s to start with, typically. And assisted living, probably 80s, and memory care could be any care. But there are no students, so it wouldn't put any burden on the school system itself. On this plan, it kind of indicates our buildings. We actually have two separate buildings. There's one building which is 4 stories, and we have approximately 90 independent living units in that building. The other building, which is 3 stories, is made up of assisted living and memory care. In that, we propose 42 assisted living and 18 memory care units. So they are attached by a couple connections, but these facilities really are different in use in a way. We also have entrances here. It's called porte cochere here for the independent living, and then off of Bainbridge would be the assisted living memory care. One of the reasons we want to come to Solon, we think it's a great community, but also there is definite need for this facility in Solon. There really is no, there's no facility like we plan on doing. There is Carrington, but that's really a 55 and older, and it's a senior living facility, but there is no amenities. You'll see as I go on, I'll talk about the amenities that we have. The other facility you have is Emerald Point, which is assisted living and memory care type units. We prepared a chart because it's really important when we present a project or propose a project. This project will be in the neighborhood of $30 million, more than $30 million. So we have to make sure the market's there, the population's right, everything else is. And what we did is we looked at a couple things. One is to look at Solon, and on this chart you'll see we chose an age group of 70 and over. There are 2,477 people in Solon that are at that age level or over. And we also look at incomes, will people want to move or not move? And out of that, we come back with a calculation we use internally of how many people out of that 2,477 will we really be able to obtain and get, want to move to our facility. And if you look down into the next column, it has independent living. We say about 176 people over 2,400 people, and 169 people would be assisted living and memory care. Then we look to see what's actually in Solon, and you'll see there's 0 number of competitive beds for independent living. So you really have 176. We're talking about putting 90 units in. And then for assisted living and memory care, there is 86 that we say is Emerald Point, but that leaves about 83 units that are still in demand here. And our demand only looks at what people are in Solon. We don't look at demand of, say, somebody who has parents that are outside the area that'd like to have their parents move to this location. So that's additional demand that we're not showing on our charts. The other thing to point out is that we look at population levels, and if you look at the statistics, in 1946, that was the baby boomer year, they said, and those people would be 70, I guess 72 coming up here. And that increases to 1965. So we're just at the very beginning of the baby boom that's going to increase. So we know this is a great market. We know it's needed in Solon, and we want to do something special here. So we worked a lot with the city in terms of look at the building, the services it had, everything else. I think this was your package too. Just give you a feel for, I'm going to read off some items that we have at the facility. We have scheduled, housekeeping and linen services. We provide transportation to appointments, doctor appointments and other appointments. We have dietitian for consulting. We have 3 meals a day. Actually, meals start at 7 in the morning and 7 at night. You come when you want. We have exercise facility and programs. There's a swimming pool. There's a theater, a salon. We try to make this more of a community-type atmosphere. It's not an apartment. You just walk in and go to your apartment. You go here and there's a community of people, and that's what we want to have. That's why we have all these facilities for them. Some of the, I'll give you a quick look at the building, and I think you've seen this, but the building we propose here is primarily brick. The building, all 4 sides will be this architecture. This is showing the independent living portion, which is 4 floors. The other building will only be 3 floors. This building has balconies that are shown throughout this building on all sides. The memory care and assisted living will not have balconies. And this will be the main entrance. This is actually the Port Cochere that's off of Cruzy Drive. Some of our projects we've done in the area, we're under construction and be opening soon in Strongsville, Westlake, Hudson, Stowe, Talmadge. But I want to take some photos of things that we've done in the past to give you a feel of what we're looking at. This is an example of, this is actually Westlake's lobby area. And then we have dining areas, and we have a bistro area. Dining is like formal dining. Bistro is more if you want to have a snack during the day. This is actually one of the bistro areas we have. This is the type of lobby you want to call it. It's more of, we kind of treat it as more of a, I don't want to say a hotel, but we're looking for an upper scale project, especially in Solon, because we think that's what people are looking for. Our picture I have is, this is our theater, which we have, which has movies every night, various types. And I mentioned we have a swimming pool and exercise facilities, but just to give you an idea, the swimming pool. One thing that, since this project is important to us, I think should be important to the city, we always put down an economic impact to the city. And I went through this to make sure that our numbers match what the city understands our project to be. And if you look at this, we have, we're estimating right now at least a income of payroll of $2 million a year for employees that are here, which gives about $40,000 a year to the city in taxes. And then we have to estimate the property taxes based on $25 million. And the reason I say $25 million, even though it's a $30 million, such thing as interest costs, and architects, engineers don't go into the cost of a project. This is actually hard cost. This would be building and site. So based on that and based on the tax rate, I broke out the different taxes by county, school, library, and you'll see that the schools are the biggest benefit from this, and we're showing just under $530,000 a year in school taxes to the school without any income or any school children. So it doesn't hurt the schools in any way, it just helps the schools. Part of this process, I should say, is we also worked on a development agreement. And we've come to terms and agreement what our building will be. Pretty much it sets out everything I've showed you here, that when and if this would get rezoned, we will live by that development agreement. I think, yes, Mr. Franklin here, I think we're all in agreement with it, and we're prepared to sign it and move ahead. And again, our plan would be we're going for a date for the May 8th election date, or election. And we still have to come back to you and go back to planning again for site plan approval. We realize that, but this would be the first step, and our intention would still be to start hopefully sometime in probably September of this year, next year, and it's about a 14-month project to be complete. So I know I kind of went through a lot quickly, but if you have any questions, let me know.
Nancy?
Hello.
Hello.
I met actually with Mr. Apple probably a month or more ago. I mean, I'm really excited about this project. I guess my only question, looking at your plans, is the parking. How many employees do you plan on having? I mean, I see here you have, projected parking 120.
Yeah.
So you're talking about, 90 spaces for the independent living and 21 for the assisted living and 9 for memory care. I don't know if you can.
Well, I
put
guess
this
it's
up
probably
on the-
best to.
So I guess my question is, how many employees are you going to have? And, I mean, are you comfortable?
Yeah, to parking, parking and.
And, because you're going to have guests, you're going to have family coming, you're
Right.
going to have visitors, and so I just.
Right. Well, let me explain on how we figure out parking. Let's start with the residents first. For memory care, there are no parking
Right,
spaces. For
obviously.
assisted living, there's no parking spaces.
Oh,
For
okay.
assisted living, there isn't.
Oh, so.
Because the assisted living, they really need some assistance. They're in
Okay.
wheelchairs, they're in walkers.
Okay.
30%, we find that about 30% of the people that are independent living do have cars.
Okay.
And that's about 90, 90 times 3, so about 27, say 30
Okay.
spaces. We also we have cars that take people places,
Okay.
appointments. Employees, we'll have anywhere between 45 and 50 employees, but that's not all at one time.
Right.
The day shift where they're doing laundry, cooking meals, those things, it's the highest number,
Right.
and that would probably be 25.
Okay.
Okay, so take 25 and you have 30, or not even less than that. But we only need about 65 spaces for the people and the employees.
Okay.
So it leaves two things happen. One is you have some overlap in employees, and they
Mhm.
come and go for a few minutes, when they're checking in and out, and rest is visitors.
Right.
So typically, we've done our plans, like I said, Westlake, we're at about 103 spaces.
Okay.
So we're a little more here, but I know it doesn't. I'm telling you, it doesn't meet your code that you have in place because it may call for 2 to 1.
Right.
Based on this, we should have 300 spaces,
Right.
which we
Yeah,
know
right.
from what we know we don't need it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Ned?
Yeah, I made just some introductory brief comments, I think at planning, just to, indicate that one of the things that, we hear some residents say is, they have to leave Solon as they get older. There's just not enough diversity in housing, not enough amenities for Solon residents, so they, have to leave, and, they go generally out of county to Portage or Summit or Geauga or where have you. And the one thing that is difficult is if they have kids and grandkids, that live in Solon, just getting back to the ball games and getting back to the choir concerts. And so one of the things that, we need to look to is obviously providing those opportunities to stay in Solon so that it's easy for them to be near their kids, near their grandkids. So it's a good location, as far as, where the site that they pick. So I just think it's something we need to really consider as we move into the future. We're all getting a little older. Our residents are getting older. And so for us to provide those types of housing opportunities to diversify, I think is important in the future. So hopefully someday when, your grandkids say, why do you have to move to Aurora, that hopefully we'll be able to say that, well, we can stay in Solon to be closer to home. And the other thing, I know Mark and I just talked briefly, just whether or not you can put a rezoning request on a primary ballot. And I'm sure we'll figure that out with the Board of Elections, because generally we put them on during general elections, but we just got to clarify to make sure we can put it on a primary ballot in May. And we don't have to push this out tonight, so we have time to.
Mark?
Do we vote to move this forward prior to, well, for one, I believe the charter does say that a general election. So I am of that opinion. I don't know. I don't have it in front of me right now.
Doesn't say
but
general election.
I,
I'll look at it.
I was just
I
asking a
believe,
question.
I read the document before, and I thought that's what I remember reading. But the other question is do we have to have a development agreement signed and in place prior to us moving forward? Mr. Franklin, maybe, what generally happens with respect to?
I mean, I would expect it to be signed before moving forward, certainly. That would be the contract, if you move forward on this, that council is voting on. If you don't have a development agreement, I'm sure Omni are honorable people when they intend to build the project that they say they're going to build. But if you don't have a development agreement, then it's simply the zoning code that governs at that point. Things happen. Sometimes the company can't meet its legal obligations, and there could be a problem. So I would highly recommend that the development agreement be signed and adopted first.
Looking at me?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
We're looking at you.
Sorry. Mr. Frank, I did not work on this particular one, but under this Section 1, Article 14, it says the regularly scheduled election. It doesn't say general. I'd like to go down to the Board of Elections and get their definition and match it up with it. I believe it can be in the May date. I have not confirmed that. I believe that's what it is, and I'll get back with you with that. And if it's not, I'll tell you, and he's going to have to wait till November, but I will check that out for you and get you a confirmation. But that's my quick legal opinion on that.
Okay. So we'll hold this item.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Tom, the other issues, just about the development agreement.
What aspect of the development agreement? Should it be signed first?
Correct.
We've always had that before we
Yeah.
put anything on the ballot.
Yeah, the properties are under option, so they don't control the properties right now, but there had to be a mechanism for having them signed. That being a contingency by which council, if you decide to move forward, puts it on the ballot. And then I don't believe it could be recorded, Mr. Law Director, until after they controlled the properties, actually bought the properties.
I will look at, I have not reviewed these matters. I'll look at it and get back with Rob. The Assistant Law Director has been handling these matters, and it's been brought to my attention. And I'll review it before the next council meeting with Mr. Franklin and with Mr. Stolarski and get back with you.
And just so council knows, you actually have until February 5th to make a
Correct.
determination
It's got to
on
be
this.
90 days before.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Thank you.
I would point out, we are willing and able to sign that agreement anytime we want. I think it's all been worked out, right?
I think everything's done.
Yeah, I think we've all agreed to everything, so we can sign it any time, even though it doesn't come valid, I guess, yet.
Okay.
So,
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay. Brings us to item number 7.
Ordinance number 2017-194, and ordinance approving wage schedules and providing for wage increases for employees not covered by a collective bargaining agreement for the year 2018 and declaring an emergency.
Okay, we will keep that on first reading. Okay, item 7A.
Ordinance number 2017-195, and ordinance authorizing a settlement agreement and mutual release by and between the City of Solon and Karen Prasser and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Kraus?
Yeah, I'd move to approve under suspension.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? I just have a couple questions. Because again, I think sometimes you lose track of this, but there was an admission of guilt, correct?
Correct.
Was there a judgment?
No.
Okay.
A civil judgment was entered into for civil theft and for conversion, and the judge trebled it to about $70,000, and then the judge granted another $6,000, approximately $6,000 in cost, and the judgment lien that currently exists is in the neighborhood of about $75,000.
Okay. Through all the different cases and motions, did we lose anything?
You mean legal battles?
Correct.
No, the majority, if not the entirety of the legal battles, in fact, or the wars were in fact won, the battles were won and the war was won. The case was dismissed by the judge against all of her claims against us. There were 6 claims against us, including age discrimination, false light, defamation, etc. Those matters were all dismissed summarily by the court on our motion for summary judgment prior to trial, and those matters are threatened to be appealed.
but those cases were thrown out, and then we did successfully go to a jury of 8 on the counterclaims.
Okay. And how many times did we offer a walkaway?
Multiple times, more than 3, 4, multiple times. In fact, I offered a walkaway even in the middle of the counterclaim.
Okay. And right now, is there a judgment against her attorney?
There is, and this ordinance does not affect that. The releases that were prepared were only for Ms. Prosser and not Ms. Grodell.
Okay. And how often do we get or do you see a judgment against another attorney?
They're threatened multiple times, but they are rarely granted and let alone rarely collected. Once every legal blue moon, as they say.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I just have a couple questions?
Sure.
Tom,
Yes.
you wrote a legal opinion?
On this particular matter
Correct.
about our ability to?
Correct.
Yes, in fact, what I did is, while this matter was initially brought up, I'm the one that raised the issue whether or not we can settle. I considered this to be similar, but not exactly like a finding for recovery, where the Attorney General comes in like on the Cheney case, and we have to prove to them. I was in communication with an Alan Allred from the State Auditor's Office, who wrote an email then to Kelly Muma, who is an attorney for the State Auditor's Office. I consulted with her. I have emails to her, which are lengthy emails on September 19th, indicating that, asking specifically whether or not we can potentially offer a walkaway. Specifically, the issues of civil theft and conversion have been fully adjudicated by a judge and jury, and can Solon still offer a walkaway? I specifically told her that I'm treating this like a finding for recovery, and I believe that the only reason a finding for recovery was not issued because the city filed its counterclaim, because usually the finding for recovery is issued by the State Auditor's Office, but we did keep the Auditor's Office involved through my legal notes to the auditor for the last 5 years. I've been advising them of the litigation and keeping advised in writing, and we did get an email back from Kelly Mumau after discussing this matter with the chief legal counsel for the State Auditor's Office, an individual who I have not talked with directly, but Kelly Mumau talked with Mr. Attorney Mark Altier, and she provided me a 1934 Ohio Attorney General opinion, which I provided to this council, and that is what they provided to me as to the only legal authority. And that Ohio Attorney General opinion did state that the city does have the authority to sue, and if it has the authority to sue, it has the inherent authority to settle a suit. And that's what I based it upon.
So there's no prohibition against
As far as
it?
I know, there is no prohibition, and I checked with the State Auditor's Office, including their legal counsel and their chief legal counsel, and that's the reply I got that I showed this council previously.
Okay. And Ms. Prosser is in bankruptcy?
That's what I understand, correct.
That's
Mark,
all I
are you
have.
further?
That's it.
I had a couple questions. Don't want to put you on the spot, Tom.
Just keep it coming.
Mayor-elect Kraus indicated that Mrs. Prosser is in bankruptcy. So I'd like to keep that in mind, but where we are at now, you said that there is a judgment that is in our favor, or 75,000 plus, somewhere in that
In the
range.
70-plus range, correct.
What kind of legal fees potentially do you see going forward to try and recover that?
To recover it or to
To
take
get-
it out of bankruptcy?
Well,
It's
we-
really.
we're still, there's still another counterclaim that
Nope.
we're,
There's no more counterclaims. The case, as decided on the complaint against us with 6 counts, was summarily dismissed by the court. Our counterclaim, which were 4 counts, were all granted by the jury, and then the judge trebled it, and then the judge also gave us costs thereafter, and that's why it mounted. Right now, there is no claims against us. Ms. Prosser would have to try and win her case in the Court of Appeals. In the interim, she has in fact
okay, so
filed
I
bankruptcy.
guess I misspoke. So there is an appeal in process.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so
and
we
while
would
the
have
appeal's
legal-
in process, there's also an attempt, because we have to try and collect it, to try and have the claims of civil theft and conversion, which we were successful unanimously in front of the jury and the judge, to get that out of bankruptcy. If it stays in bankruptcy, we cannot collect it. And you're asking me how much will it cost? I don't do a lot of bankruptcy, but the firm would expend fees to get it out of bankruptcy, and then there would be additional fees to collect from thereafter.
What about the appeal? We obviously have to incur legal expenses for that as well.
Correct. The legal expenses for the appeal by Ms. Prosser to overturn the judge's ruling on the summary judgment on the 6 counts would be paid to Barry Freeman. There is a split between what we pay Mr. Freeman and what the insurance company pays us. I think I explained this to you before. The total legal fees are $250 an hour, but the insurance pays $140. We recoup that back, so there's an extra $110 that technically is from our pockets, in addition to all the, but that's the total fees. I hope I explained it right. $250 an hour, $140 is recouped, but it's still $110 above that, which is paid by the city in furtherance of that.
So there is also, so there is legal fees. Sounds like it could potentially be $100, $110 an hour that the city could be on the hook for. Sounds like it could be substantial. And then it also sounds like there is a serious question as to whether or not we will even be able to collect and get that out of bankruptcy. And even if we are successful in getting it out of bankruptcy, I still think it would probably be difficult to collect. Does this legislation, passing this legislation, would this then stop the meter running for all the legal fees for the most part going forward?
Most, but not all. There is still the issue of the sanctions against the attorney, Ms. Grodell, which are not affected by it. So the meter would still be running in that aspect.
For the Grodell portion, but for the Prosser portion, it would stop.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I hope I answered your question.
You did, thank you.
Right. And I think the thing to keep in mind is that we did offer walkaways every step of the way, and that meter would not have been running if that walkaway was accepted way back when. So we do have a motion and a second. Roll call under suspension, please.
Mr. Katora?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus?
Yes.
Mr. McGill?
Yes.
Mrs. Meany?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Okay, final passage?
Mr. Katora?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus?
Yes.
Mr. McGill?
Yes.
Mrs. Meany?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Okay. Brings us to the consent portion of our agenda. Item number 8.
Ordinance number 2017-196, and ordinance accepting the final contract adjustment with Bauman Enterprises Incorporated for the Hunt Club Pool demolition project.
Mrs. Meany.
Yes, this came out of our Safety and Public Properties Committee. This is the final closeout for the Hunt Club demolition project contract 2015.30, and this is in the amount of $35,380, which will be paid to Bauman Enterprises.
Thank you. Item number 9.
Ordinance number 2017-197, and ordinance establishing a new employee medical self-insurance fund number 605 related to the self-insured employee health benefits program, declaring an emergency.
Mr. Scott.
Yes, this creates Fund 605, which is the Employee Medical Self-Insurance Fund to budget for and record financial activity of the city's employee self-insurance program.
Thank you. Item number 10.
Ordinance number 2017-198, and ordinance authorizing the execution of then and now certificates by the Director of Finance and the payment of amounts due for various purchase orders and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Scott.
Yes, this authorizes payments that are due and owing for Norma Incorporated, Aqueduct, and Dynamo Power Incorporated.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to the end of our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Under suspension.
Under suspension.
Okay, second by Mrs. Meany. Roll call under suspension, please.
Mr. Katora?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus?
Yes.
Mr. McGill?
Yes.
Mrs. Meany?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Final passage?
Mr. Katora?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus?
Yes.
Mr. McGill?
Yes.
Mrs. Meany?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Okay. That brings us to comments from the audience. Any comments from the audience? Any comments from the audience? Any comments from the audience?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, you have
please
to
come up to
comment.
the podium, state your name and your address, please.
My name is Ann Cover. I live at 34200 Brookmead Court. That's the Carrington apartment complex in Solon. And I just have a question, not being familiar with what's going on or the terminology, what does this exactly mean for Karen Presser going forward?
I can answer that. At this time, based upon council's recommendations, subject to a potential veto by the mayor, all the claims on her side would be released and all of our claims would be released, and it is a walk away at this time.
Okay, thank you so much.
And if you have any questions, you can always call me, Tom Loby, and I'll talk to you, give my number at the end, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Call collect.
Okay, any
Showing
other
your age,
comments
Tim.
from the audience? Any comments from the audience? Seeing there are none, we'll bring it back to the dais for comments from council, starting with Mrs. Meany.
Okay, I'll probably ramble a little bit. I got a little bit to say here. First of all, I want to wish everybody a really happy Thanksgiving. Everybody up here that I work with, everybody in the audience, all of the department heads, enjoy. I also want to congratulate Bob, who's not here, Mark, my little brother, Jeremy, who I think is still here, Bob Shimmons, and Ed. I'm really excited to work with all you, and I'm just really excited for all the great things we're going to do. I got to thank my guy here, John, for stepping up to the plate. I really enjoyed working with you. I was on 2 committees with John. We were on safety and on finance. John's insight, knowledge is just amazing, and I know I'm going to miss you, but I know I'll still keep calling you and picking your brain if that's okay. And let me see here. And I guess I would be remiss without, thanking Mayor Drucker. She was mayor for 8 years. I wish her all the best in whatever she chooses to do. As far as Mr. Dursek, I've had some residents who are getting red ribbons on their trees, so maybe at your time to make your comments, if you could let them know what that's all about. And I think that's it.
Mr. Scott.
Okay, let me start out by congratulating Bob Palunas on his victory. Something a little strange about the fact that he won his election, now he's in Vegas. Mr. Law Director, if you could look into that, I'd appreciate it.
Find a conflict there.
I'd also like to congratulate Mark and Bob Shimmons on your resounding, hard-fought victories. Neither of you were opposed. And I've had an opportunity to have a couple of meetings with Jeremy Zellwin, and Jeremy and I have talked a lot about Ward 3, and I can kind of, well, the first thing I told him was, once you get on council, you have to make one good friend, and that's Carol McConaughey, the clerk of council, because she's the one that saves all of us, and people don't ever realize it, but she and her staff are really magnificent. Jeremy will do a good job for Ward 3, and I feel I've left it into good hands because he's going to do the job. And my congratulations to my friend Eddie Kraus.
Thank you, John.
I'm sure you were elated on the night of the election, and then you woke up the next morning and said, oh boy, I won, now what the hell am I going to do? And it's a kind of a daunting task, but I would like to really take this opportunity for everybody up here at the dais and the 2 gentlemen out there to come together and help Eddie. I know, Eddie, you're going to be welcoming of any help you can get. And I think the more unity that there is up there, the better it is for our community, and there's a lot of work to do, and I do hope that everybody does that. I will still be around if anybody needs to give me a call or wants to hear my 2 cents. That I would appreciate a call every now and then. It's been a good time, and I would like to, first of all, with the people up here and with especially the department heads and all the other employees of the city of Solon. I would just like to say it's been an honor to work with you people, and we'll see you around. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. McGill asked that he,
Okay, so I'm up next.
yes,
I guess I will echo the comments of my colleagues. I'd like to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving. Congratulations to Bob Shimitz and Jeremy Zellman. We'll be looking forward to working with you. We already started that process, it feels like, over the last 2 weeks, so I'm sure it'll be very comfortable going forward. Congratulations, Dad. I'm gonna miss sitting next to you. I just got used to this. So, congratulations, and congratulations to my good friend Bob Palunas. He's, I think, having more fun than we are tonight. I would like to say, growing up, John Scott was one of the council people. I was in college at the time when you got elected. But I guess you're one of those guys I always kind of looked up to. So it was a real pleasure, privilege, and honor to be able to serve with you these last several months. And I will be calling, probably to set up a time to go meet for dinner or cocktails or something like that. And I'm sure I may have a historical perspective that I may need on something. And so I would like to I will take you up on that and reserve the right to call you. But I'd also like to echo your comments about city council and being a partner with the administration. I know that we're not always going to agree, and I don't think it's our job to always agree. I think that's why that's why there are 7 of us. But I'm looking very forward to being a part of Team Solon and helping to move the city forward into the future. And so with that, congratulations.
Thanks, buddy.
I'm going to miss sitting next to you, but maybe I'll be able to throw some paper airplanes or something at you to get your attention. And those are going to be my comments for this evening.
Mr. Kraus.
Just as you guys are all aware, I always refer to it as Team Solon. Whenever I coach all my son's games, the first thing I talk about with the kids are, and they say this at every practice and every game, there's no I in team, and we're always a team. Just a few people I would just want to point out. First off, I look forward to be the biggest pain in the butt constituent to my buddy out there, Bob Shimitz. I've been waiting 16 years for someone to take that spot, and I can't wait. No, but I look forward to, Bob's a good buddy of mine, and I've been looking forward to this for a long time. We've talked about this a lot over the years, and I definitely look forward to this. To Jeremy, I really look forward to working with you. I've gotten to know Jeremy, known his family for a long time, and it's really special to have Jeremy to work with you and to really promote our community as the #1 business destination in Northeastern Ohio. And we're going to make it happen. To my buddy Bob Palunas, I know you can hear me out there, Bobby. Have a good time, and but congratulations on another great victory in Ward 2. Also, congrats to Mike Tuskin, who ran with Bob. To my dear friend John Scott. John and I go way back. We went through a lot of battles together. Briar Hill Lake, the flood, trying to get Central Park pushed through, all of our meetings with Bob Stark, just amazing relationship that I've always had with John. John was always my go-to guy. When I needed something, when I needed help, when I was in a little trouble, when I had to figure out how to navigate through some very difficult waters. So I just want to say thanks, John, first off, for being a friend, and for always being there for me. And I know that I'm going to need you now more than ever as I enter this new role. So just congratulate you on all of your great service to the community. To my friend Doug, on a very spirited race. Doug brings, as you probably were aware, over the last many months during the campaign, Doug brought so much energy, electricity, knowledge insight. I mean, just in the budget meetings over last Monday and this Monday, so many great things that Doug brings to the table from his background in business and all of his work experiences is just going to serve me immeasurably just in some of the things that Doug brought up tonight. I took note of, and really, it's an opportunity for all of us to move the city forward. So thanks, Doug, for a very spirited campaign, and look forward to working with you. To Susan, you know, it's been, 16 years Susan has given to the community, 8 as mayor and about 7 or 8 on city council. So I look forward to counseling from Susan, congratulate her on a job well done, all of her service to the community. I look at where some of our departments were many years ago and where they are now, and it's light years from where they were. You know, I could go through so many different departments. I mean, IT, HR, you know, finance under Matt, you know, bill and service. There's probably no better examples of our safety forces. You know, police and fire are the 2 finest safety forces in northeastern Ohio, and a lot of it from the leadership from the chiefs and the administration. So I thank Susan for all of her efforts and all of her hard work in really pushing us into the future. And I want to wish everyone to have a very happy Thanksgiving, enjoy it with family and friends. Look forward to this Wednesday for the holiday lighting. I think it should be a fun time. And just lastly, just want to thank all the residents of Ward 6. It's been 16 years. It's been an incredible ride for me, and it's been just a labor of love of representing all of Ward 6 up here. I started out, I think the first project, first vote was Walgreens, and then getting the ledges passed and all the major projects that we've had over the last 16 years. And I look forward to serving Ward 6 and all the wards in a different capacity in a couple weeks. So those are my comments.
Hopefully there'll be a Reader's Digest version from here on forward.
Well, I guess from now on I'll only be an invited guest, so
That's right.
you'll be able to control those comments.
Mr. McGill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Scott, thank you. Thank you for your service, not only in the past, but in the last few months. It has been a joy to have you on council with us. I am very grateful that you are willing to do that for us. Congratulations to Mr. Palunas. I have not received any text from him today. That must mean he is not winning. But we'll find out later. Congratulations, of course, to Mr. Couture. It is indeed an honor and a pleasure to serve with you up here. You have been very helpful to me, and I have never met a more dedicated, thorough, thoughtful, and considerate public servant than Mark Couture. So I'm grateful for that. And of course, Jeremy, welcome. You have some big shoes to fill. I look forward to working with you on that. It's going to be interesting. And of course, Mr. Shimitz, I don't know how you managed to do this, but it's really nice having you on board with us. We're going to enjoy this together. I want to speak just a moment about the campaign. One of the exigencies of teaching leadership is you get occasionally have to do it yourself and speak from your heart. Sometimes say things that other people don't want to say, but I just really enjoyed the heck out of running for mayor. I had a blast. It was incredibly enjoyable experience. I got to meet so many wonderful people in this community and to learn so much about what this community is and can be. It really fills me with excitement just to be involved in this enterprise, let alone to potentially have been mayor. It doesn't matter in the long run. There is so much there that we should all be grateful for. And as we remember here on Thanksgiving, that's one of the things that we should be grateful for. There's energy and enthusiasm, and I didn't do that. Whose cell phone's going off?
Not me.
Anyway, so it's been a blast, and thank you. Thank you to the community for that. Thank you for everybody that offered me advice, encouragement, support, and certainly to the people in the city the administration and all of the department heads and their staffs, because everybody was willing to answer questions. Everybody was willing to give me advice and wisdom and counsel, and it is incomparable to receive that, and I am extraordinarily grateful. This is an experience not to have been missed under any circumstances. I also want to say that, Mr. Kraus and I are going to work together. It is our responsibility to make this city the best city it can be. I have no doubt that with Mr. Kraus at the helm, we will move forward, because I know he's smart enough to ask advice of those people around him. And I expect that to happen. I will issue only one note of caution, and I mean this sincerely from the heart. There were some words flying around at times that perhaps shouldn't have been out there, and for my part in that, I apologize. I just want to make sure that people understand that some of the language that was used was divisive, and it was partisan. And the unfortunate part of that is not from a political standpoint, but it makes some people feel marginalized. And I think one of our jobs going forward, and I know Ed agrees with this, is that we need to work on that, because that creates an environment where good people don't necessarily want to run for office because of that. We need to be cognizant of that and work our best to make sure that Solon has higher standards than other communities, because that is ultimately how we compete here. Other communities are looking at us, and we need to rise to that, be above them. We need to be better, unique, and special in order for us to compete with them. So we need to continue that. And I'll leave you with one thought, and this is for Ed. Abraham Lincoln, I teach this when I teach leadership classes. I am bound to be true. I'm not bound to succeed, but I am bound to live by the light that I have. I must stand with anybody that stands right, and stand with him while he is right, and part with him only when he goes wrong. We, in fact, will do that. Thank you, Ed, for the opportunity to serve with you, and thank you for the city of Solon.
Thank you. All right. Well, I, for one, am happy that the election season is over and that we can get back to normal. I'm also encouraged by the words of unity. So looking forward to working with everybody here. Bob and Mark, again, even though you were unopposed, you still had to go out and get signatures. And in this day and age, that's not easy. So I think that's probably the hardest thing about running, is getting people to sign your petition. John, it's been a pleasure working with you a second time.
Long time.
Jeremy, again, congratulations on your campaign, and I'll congratulate Mr. Plunas when he gets back. I do want to thank Mayor Drucker and Council for the opportunity to serve as Vice Mayor for the last 2 years. It was an honor and a privilege. Again, this is my last meeting as Vice Mayor, and Ed, you'll have the opportunity to announce your new Vice Mayor. Also, I'd like to make sure that, again, the tree lighting was mentioned. It's supposed to start at 6:30. Tree lighting is supposed to be, at least the festivities will start at 6:30, and the tree lighting will be at 6:50. And then finally, I'd like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and a blessed Thanksgiving. Those are my comments, and we'll start with comments from the administration, starting with Mr. Loby.
I'd like to thank everybody here on the dais and Mayor Drucker. I think that as I sit here, and I've had the opportunity for 7 years, there's a lot of goodness that goes on in the city. And I'm confident that as we go forward, there's going to be a lot of good that's going to go forward also. And to all the elected officials, congratulations. And to those that ran, thank you for trying to get elected. It means a lot for the city. I'd like to thank all the directors that I work with too. And in this Thanksgiving season, I'd like to thank all of you, because we have worked together now for X amount of years, and I appreciate all that you've done for me and for the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. McConaughey.
Well, I'd like to thank John for his comments and let you know how much I've enjoyed working with you again, even though it was a short time. Also, I'd like to welcome Jeremy and Bob to Council and look forward to working with you. Congratulate Mark and Bob on their reelection, their hard-fought reelection, and welcome Ed Kraus as mayor, and that's it.
Thank you. Chief Island.
I have nothing tonight. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Chief Shaw.
Just want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, and just a reminder, make it a safe Thanksgiving by being very careful with your cooking devices, particularly the turkey fryers. They can get away from you very quickly and be very catastrophic in their results. So follow the directions and have a safe Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Mr. Rubino.
I'd like to thank council members and council members-elect for participating in budget hearings the past week. And you probably heard enough of me talking, so I will end my comments there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Franklin.
Just would like to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Mr. Dursick.
I have a few things. I'd like to start out with what Mrs. Meany was referring to. Every fall we do what's called a leaf-on drive-through with our tree crew. It's where we identify trees throughout the city that dead, dying, disease that may need to be removed or cut down or trimmed up. So as you go through the city, you may see some trees with red ribbons on them. Those are trees that we are having contractors look at for removal and getting prices on that. A few other things I'd like to mention with regards to leaves. We've made 7 passes through the city with our leaf collection since October 9th. We've been out for about 40 days. We've collected 344 loads of leaves, which roughly amounts to 8,600 yards of leaves picked up. And we're averaging between 5 to 7 days to make it through the whole city with our routes. With the storm that we had on November 5th, we've been giving extra attention to that southeastern part of the city with regards to brush pickup because there's still some pretty big pine trees down. And plus we've made 5 passes through the city since the beginning of the month to keep up with our brush collection. And yesterday we got our first taste of snow for the season. We did have 6 trucks out with no issues, but I just want to make sure that everybody's giving our plow trucks plenty enough room this year. We want to keep everybody safe on the road, so give our plow trucks plenty of room so they can do their jobs. And happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Mrs. Welsh.
Just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
Mrs. Waldorfman. Okay, well, that brings us to the end of our agenda. Is
One
there a
more
motion to
final
adjourn?
comment, Mr. Russo. Thank you for your service as vice mayor.
Never a problem. So, do we have a motion?
So moved. John should do it.
Is there a second?
John.
I think John Scott did that
Yeah,
second.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Katora?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus?
Yes.
Mr. McGill?
Yes.
Mrs. Meany?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.